oh, video games, they're a bit violent, aren't they? And I'm like, Dad, you encourage this.
I remember Dead Island 1 had just a bust of a woman.
Oh.
A severed head.
Oh.
Okay, that's bizarre.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, if you a red flag for any woman walking into an apartment and saying that.
Yeah, just walk the fuck out.
Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome and thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Video Game Chat podcast, a fortnightly podcast talking about games, tech, and other nerdy goodness. I'm Jordy, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Rob.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Juicy.
I know that's bedazzled onto your jeans, but
Just go with it. Just go with it.
We hope you enjoy this podcast, and please follow us on Twitter at VGC_podcast, and feel free to tweet us with topic recommendations or questions you have for us to answer on the podcast. So guys, how have we been doing since the last episode? There was no last episode because we're recording these two together.
yeah, since then I've got a coffee.
Yeah, we've all had a bit of a break, and now we're ready to record
I think we're going to say
We all had a piss. Let's be upfront about this.
I had a coffee enema.
bathroom break.
Wait, hang on. That just in the mess of everything that was happening there. Gary, did you just say you had a coffee enema?
It was a quick one.
Okay, that's okay.
I didn't go full in.
Yeah, as long as you're not overindulging on podcast time, all right?
What's it? Boss makes $1. Boss makes $1. I make a dime. That's why I'm pooping on podcast time.
That's why Gary enemas on podcast time.
Workers of the world, have a shite.
So,
Unionize.
My hand's going to
I'm
explode.
gonna be sick.
at the beginning of the last episode, it was laughing at dick jokes, and now it's just.
I think I can taste blood.
And now it's scatological.
Oh,
Shit.
All right.
Anyone want to play categories?
All right. Well,
Categories.
speaking of shit, shall we move on to the GameCube?
Oh, that's uncalled for. The GameCube had some solid games. Come on.
Boo you, Brendan.
If you've never played Wind Waker, if you've never played the perfect game that was Metroid Prime, you cannot say that.
And yeah, and also Pokemon Colosseum as well, like a Pokemon 3D Pokemon game, like the first 3D Pokemon game, other than like the new style 3DS games,
Aye.
where you actually like played it more like a fighting game, more like a not so much like a Tekken or something like that, but it was just Pokemon battles.
Aye, it was just arena combat.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just
Did you control the Pokemon?
Yeah, it was like Game Boy Pokemon fights, you know?
Yeah.
But just in 3D.
3D, and like when you got your Blastoise to do Hydro Pump, Hydro Pump came out of the cannons on the back of the Blastoise.
And you could plug in your... which Game Boy was it? Was it the Game Boy Advance ones or what? I can't remember. Yeah, you could plug in your actual Game Boy cartridge and use your Pokemon from that game as well, which was
that's why
all tied in together, which was quite fun.
That's why I believe in the second or third gen Pokemon games, I think maybe Crystal, you had a little GameCube in your room when you first started up those style games. Yeah. The more you know.
Yeah. And to veer away from Pokemon, did you play Metroid Prime, Jordan?
I remember playing one of the Metroid.
Was it the irritating second one that had the Dark World?
You know what? I probably wouldn't be able to put my finger on it unless I had a look.
Must be a good game. Must have been really memorable.
The first one was fucking amazing because again, it took a game. It was one of those ones that switched genre essentially from what the old ones were, which were again half of the concept of Metroidvania titles, side-scrolling platform, but open world, see an area, come back to it later when you've got the equipment that you found in another area, you now realize you can go through another one, like progressing, but as you've like gained new equipment and skills and things. But it took that into an FPS shooter, which was made by a completely separate studio. Shit, I can't remember who it was now, the studio. Somebody Google this for me so I don't feel stupid. I'm screwed. I'm good. Retro Studios. Yeah. And they managed to take that whole concept and like the game design and the character designs of side-scrolling Metroid and just translate it into like a 3D environment really fucking well. Like it all worked flawlessly. The world designs were, quite interesting, but at the same time it was very cliche in the whole sense of like 4 different zones sort of thing. There was like an ice zone, there was like a tropical zone, so a bit cliche in that regard, but the world designs were amazing. The soundtrack was absolutely fantastic. I will just find one of the tracks for you, and but it was just such a beautiful game, and it kicked off again like its own franchise, which sort of died a bit after the third one, but they're doing a Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch. And
so Metroid Prime, was that the first 3D Metroid, was it?
It was the first 3D Metroid.
Right. So I didn't play Prime, I played Metroid 2 on the Game Boy Advance.
How did you get that mixed up? Completely different game. Metroid Prime.
I've never played a Metroid 3D game. I've only played the side-scroller ones.
Well, it's been ported over to PC for the Vive and things, and Oculus as well, so you can play it in VR if you wanted to.
Well, I've got a friend now who's got a VR headset that he said he's happy with me borrowing, so
cool. I'll hopefully have a look for Metroid Prime VR and give that a go, because apparently it plays very well.
We'll do. It does look very Doom-esque.
Yeah, it's quite doomy.
Unreal Engine.
But with like more ability. Well, yeah, like new Doom, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a modern, well, not modern, but at the time, modern version of Doom.
Yeah.
But my only experience of Metroid Prime growing up was you and Ant playing it. And you both told me that I should play it. And I didn't have a GameCube, so I couldn't.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I recently watched a YouTube series from Game Maker's Toolkit. If you're interested in game making or just
level design and things,
or level design, check out Game Maker's Toolkit. Very, very insightful YouTube channel.
Yeah, they did a really good breakdown of like Metroidvania titles and Ocarina as well. Legend of Zelda, how like the dungeon design has changed over the course of the series, and maybe not for the better.
Yes, yeah. He breaks down like he picks a subject and breaks it down very, very concisely. He's very, very knowledgeable. But the world design of Metroid Prime, Boss Keys is what it's called. You want to have a look at that? It's very, very good, and it introduced me to the Metroid Prime kind of mechanics that you could roll through, like kind of tunnels to get to particular areas. But you had to unlock that roll?
Yeah, that was one of the first things you unlock, I think. Because again, every Metroid game sort of starts you off with like everything that you're going to have throughout the game. And then after that sort of intro section, it will just take it away from you.
Yeah, and he was explaining. Actually, if you want to know more about that, check out Game Maker's Toolkit, because he explains that exact mechanic where you have everything to begin with and then it all gets stripped away. He explains that very, very clearly and much better than I ever could.
Good.
Yeah. So,
Music
moving on from GameCube, we'll sort of go into sort of early PC games that we used to sort of play before we get into the large and very nostalgic PlayStation 2.
Oh, God,
right.
yes.
PC games.
First PC game I ever played was Doom 95.
Oh,
on our first family computer. Well, I was just fucking around, seeing what was on. Like, it had the little enter into DOS mode that you had to type in to switch to. And then, commands in there. And like, I was fucking about and I did /games.
Was that the
and a list of games that were just pre-installed on that computer, just like whatever.
Solitaire.
Yeah. That was on the regular, normal-looking OS thing. Solitaire was there, but there were DOS games that were installed when you had to boot into DOS and then go. It was on that list there, and you just typed in like "play Doom" because I just saw Doom, and I was like along the list of other things, and I was like, "That sounds fun." Little like 6-year-old me, and then Doom. And then, like the fucking Doom theme kicks off, and I was just like, "This looks amazing!" And I just like I played 20 minutes of it the first time because like it did quite scare me, but then my interest was piqued. I came back and I was smashing through it. Then my dad found me shotgunning guys in half, and he was just like, "What you doing, Rob?
Are you winning, son?"
Yeah, are you winning, son? And me and my dad ended up playing a ton of it.
Yes,
until we beat it. Yeah,
Nice.
My dad always had a weird relation to like age ratings for things and violence. He'd always complain about like games being violent and stuff, but he encouraged me to play Doom at an early age. And when I was like 10, 11 or whatever, he was like, "Oh, do you want to watch Terminator 2? It's really good." I was like, "Okay." And, but then, video games, they're a bit violent, aren't they? And I'm like, "Dad, you encourage this."
You made me the man I am today.
Yeah.
Wouldn't I be right in saying Doom is the one, like the original Doom is the one that got into a load of controversy because it was tied into the Columbine shooting? Where it was the guys that carried out that shooting had apparently designed a level which was like a map of the school on the game at the time, and it was one of those things where you talking about the way your dad was like, "Oh, that's a bit violent" and stuff like that. Like in America, there was a huge effort to be like, "Oh, so these video games have caused it," and there's like a whole legacy track there which sort of centers around Doom.
Was that actually Doom? I always thought that was Counter-Strike.
I thought it was Doom. I'll double check, but I am pretty sure.
When did Doom come out?
It was 99, wasn't it?
99?
No, Doom was 95.
95.
Oh, no, wait, 1993, sorry.
And just for context, Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive, when did that come out, roughly? Good.
Probably the 93, I imagine.
Yeah, be early enough.
So, I just the whole thing about the age rating in games and games being violent and causing people to be more violent. Like, you literally released the game like on the first like one of the very first consoles called Streets of Rage. You walk down the street and just beat up people. And no one batted an eyelid back then. But Doom and being related to someone doing a mass shooting, it's all gone a bit.
He didn't make a map. He just said that he was quoted in his journal about planning the massacre. It would be like playing Doom. And he would be killing people for his enjoyment. So it was purely metaphor.
Oh, no, there was also, it's because it was Eric Harris was the one who was linked to it, and he had things like, there was all these documents that came out after the shooting, and in some of his documents, he actually had like points in like Doom levels that he was talking about, where there's like ones where he went through about thinking about recreating the actual high school. So I think that's where it was all this talk about like, were they using it as like a training scenario and all this sort of business because it was a first person shooter? Is this how they planned out, how they carried out the shooting? It's like, it's the same debate we hear all the time. Like if you remember the Call of Duty controversy that broke out with the Remember No Russian level, there was an immediate just copy paste of that exact debate of people are going to do this and then they're immediately going to go out and shoot up an airport.
Which is pretty fucking impossible to do. The amount of security and like the fact that even if you probably, before you even consider doing it, the government will know.
Yeah.
So, but a correction for Streets of Rage, it came out in 1991.
Ah, right. Early enough. But in keeping with the controversial violent games, the PC was the big one for me for my entry into the Grand Theft Auto franchise. That top-down first and original game that came with it, where you could run over the string of Hare Krishna monks and get a celebratory message of Goranga on the screen for doing it is a very, very poignant childhood memory in my mind. I should stress that obviously I hold no animosity whatsoever towards Hare Krishna worshippers. It was just how the video game did it. And actually, to bring this back to the NI context, my older brother was the one who got GTA on the PC, and then he would play it and I would play it. And anytime we saw that string of orange people walking along, we thought they were actually orange men from Northern Ireland because they would play little drums and sort of like make a tune as they went along. So there was a sectarian element to that more than anything about Hare Krishna monks.
Oh dear.
But GTA was very good. The original two top-down ones.
Oh,
the regular
superb.
GTA and GTA London. We already covered it before.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Well,
great games.
I never played any of the top-down GTAs.
They're worth going back to. They're a wee bit clunky in their own ways, but they still sort of play well. It's like a decent sort of retro art style to it, and it's a very, like, I feel like it's a kind of different gameplay to what you'd be used to with GTA, because the earlier games, it was obviously a bit more difficult to do the gunplay, so there's a lot more car-based stuff in it, and it's just interesting to play back through it.
Which really what GTA should be, because it is more of stealing cars.
Auto.
Yeah, it's literally called Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. The car mechanics in it, yes, they were a bit clunky, but like you said, it was more about stealing cars and running people over with the cars as opposed to getting out and using pistol. Like, you still could, but like Brendan says, it felt better to use the car because I think they spent a little bit more time on the mechanics of the car.
I distinctly remember actually one of the issues with it at the time, like it plays fine, like it wasn't exactly a particularly taxing game, but there would be issues it would have because it's top down. If you got into one of the faster cars, like the Countach, well, it's based on the Lamborghini Countach, or a superbike, you went so fast that the camera, which is looking down on you, couldn't catch up. So the bike would literally go off the side of your screen, and then this camera would desperately try to chase it.
and then all of a sudden it comes to a stop when you realise you've crashed into the fucking edge of a building.
That's it.
Or another character. And so like all the mechanics of flying off your bike, they were in the 2D games as well.
And if you put a car onto the electric railway tracks, it would explode, and people would get electrocuted into little skeletons.
I don't think, like, I reckon it hasn't dated that badly, you know?
No, like, I've played it. It's available on Steam. GTA 2 is also available on Steam. I know it's sort of the more popular one, but both of them play quite well enough. It doesn't feel clunky because of the way it's designed. It's not that sort of thing of, you know, you go back to an old PlayStation 2 shooter and the aiming and stuff doesn't feel right, and the bullet impacts don't feel right because it's that top-down retro thing. It's like, yes, this just plays like a mobile game.
Yeah, it does feel very much like a mobile game. I'm sure they probably made a mobile version of it.
I'm pretty sure they're all on the app stores and the Google Plays and the other mobile device stores are available. But yeah, I see that all three of you as well have put on the Command and Conquer series.
Of course. Of course.
And I feel bad for not playing any Command and Conquer games.
Well, you've not played a single one.
Oh,
Why, Comrade President, whatever do you mean?
All references.
It was one of those, again, games that I only ever got to play at somebody else's. My uncle had a PC as well. He had a bunch of different computer games. He had Command and Conquer Red Alert 2, and he also had X-Wing versus TIE Fighter as well. So whenever I was around theirs, I always got to play those two games. Great fun. He also had Tiberium, Tiberian Sun?
Tiberium Sun.
Tiberian Sun.
What a phenomenal game. Oh, that was...
Yeah, it was like he had the little Command and Conquer pack thing. I think the first one didn't properly work on his computer, but the second and Tiberian Sun did.
Did he have the big, chunky CD
chunky
case
box.
which had four discs in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, God, yeah, I can smell it already.
It's a beautiful collector's edition. I loved it.
I think that is definitely an element of, just while we're talking about the general idea of nostalgia of games, something I do miss is that satisfying feeling of that physical game copy in your hand.
Yeah. And there's something like the texture and the smell.
Yeah.
Like, that smell of that like kind of old shit paper that they printed on. It's got like that kind of toner smell to it.
Yeah.
I do miss that.
The big one that I always remember is, this is kind of jumping ahead in PC, but I don't want to dwell on the game itself just for the point of like the physical elements of games, was getting World of Warcraft for the first time. And you got this huge thick box full of discs, and there was just a book with it, like a book was inside the box to explain all the races, the classes, the background of World of Warcraft. It felt incredible that you just had this big, like, the game was this whole big thing. There was a tome with it and everything. I think that it is just something that I do miss now, because like obviously it's convenient that I can keep pretty much all my games on a Steam library and just download them whenever I want. You know, you don't need to worry about a scratched disc. But it was just nice to get that sort of thing with it that you could keep and have a physical memory with.
Well, I mean, they do that with collector's editions and like limited edition boxes.
Yeah, but they're unfortunately just never really worth it, are they? Outside of the few games.
I guess it depends on what you quantify as value, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few games, like, say, Divinity Original Sin 2, Gary. Like the collector's edition of that, you know, you want to celebrate sort of the developer, the franchise, that sort of thing, you know, when you're a big fan of their work and the product at the end of it.
There are certain things about like the current approach to that works very well with, I feel like, console games where a lot of them are still disc-based and you need to pick up a box and stuff from game and whatever when you're buying them. Obviously, they're now shifting a lot to downloads, but there's a peril around some of this, because I remember the big push with collector's editions of DVDs and things like that. There was a whole load of merchandise came out with that. And the one that always sticks in my head that I think overlaps with a lot of like game exclusives, where it's like you get a statue with it, was The Amazing Spider-Man 2 when it came out. Remember that great movie that everyone loves? Didn't think so.
Oh yeah, the one that's gone down in history as one of the best Spider-Man films, if not one of the best superhero films of all time.
I should stress it's The Amazing Spider-Man, not Tobey Maguire. I'm talking about Andrew Garfield. And
I know, I'm being incredibly facetious.
The beloved treat that you got with your collector's edition of that DVD, I should stress I didn't buy this, I saw it in the shop, was a gigantic plastic head of Jamie Foxx's Electro. Just his head for your shelf.
While we were talking about sort of World of Warcraft and sort of online based sort of games, like something that sort of really sort of was embedded into my childhood at a very young age, were like online, like web browser based games.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
So, like,
you're not going to say the one I think you are you?
Another one which, when I was younger, got me into a lot of trouble, which was Habbo Hotel.
I knew you were going to say Habbo Hotel.
Let us not. No, Rob. No, let us not go into that.
We could discuss that after the podcast, potentially.
We could probably do a special episode on the rather controversial nature of gaming communities and certain subsects within them and how they ruin perfectly good games. That could probably cover Habbo Hotel.
Yeah, that would cover pretty much every single competitive game ever.
Yeah.
I remember playing that game, coming home from school, and like me and a friend would set up rooms and we'd play like mini games where it was things called like, I remember Falling Fernie. It was when you just plop down furniture and be the first, like the last person. It's basically like musical chairs.
Yeah.
But you put down furniture and someone sits on it and they stay on it. And right, that's them get through to the next round sort of thing. And then like the winner would win like a Habbo club sofa sort of thing. Yeah. And the club sofas were worth quite a lot in the game because they were like, you used to have to create have a subscription to be able to get one of those. And I remember sort of setting up multiple accounts and and buying multiple subscriptions using my home landline to pay for them. And yeah, I got grounded for quite a few weeks for like racking up. I think it was like a nearly 50 quid bill. Yeah,
which back then was probably more significant than it sounds now.
Oh yeah,
definitely,
100%. I was like, I was not allowed to use the computer at all. Like, I was glad that I had like other things that I could do with my time.
Yeah.
When I was at that age, like going out on my bike and actually like spending time with friends' houses who actually had consoles that weren't taken away from them because you could secret on a phone bill.
Christ, we all of us haven't put in our, because we have a list that we're currently looking over.
Yeah.
None of us have mentioned RuneScape or Habbo Hotel, but we all played them.
I feel it's because we're talking about nostalgia and things like that. It certainly applies to a certain level of it, but it's one of those things of when I think about truly great games that I really enjoyed growing up with. I played a lot of time on RuneScape. I had a paid membership and all the rest of it, but I just see that as like my gateway to World of Warcraft and like later RPGs. And I don't know, I just don't feel like I've got the same nostalgia ever since like RuneScape Classic came out, and I could sort of remember that it was just constantly grinding.
Yes, I don't have, I have nostalgia for it in the sense that I have some fond memories of it, but it's not like I'd go back and play RuneScape ever again.
Yeah.
I went back and played it recently when it got released on mobile devices.
Oh yeah.
And then I had my account, I logged in, all my stuff was there from when I was younger, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, oh, I remember this game. How did you
remember your login details?
I've had multiple email addresses, and I still know all of the passwords for all of them.
It's been Jordan123 since 2002.
Shit, I've been rumbled. I have to change it to 234.
Not quite, but my very first email address, which is still my name to today, Jordy Wiz Pop, was at AOL.com, was my first ever email address. It's deactivated now, so you'll never be able to contact me via it. But
doxed.
Yes, that account I've had for years, and I had known the password, like, never ever got rid of it. Like, it's just stuck in my head, something that I can't ever, like, not think of, sort of thing. It was one of the things you created as a child, and I've remembered it ever since. But yeah,
fair enough.
That is something that I've. But then the whole thing about the story, logged in, played it on my mobile for a couple of weeks. Didn't use it then for a few more weeks. Sort of drifted off of it. Didn't want to play it, and then went to log back on when a few more of my friends had jumped back onto it. And then your account's locked. I was like, what's going on? Account's been locked. Contact Jagex and was like, what's going on? My account's been locked. Can you like reactivate it for me? Get a support message back from Jagex saying that my account had been banned for botting.
Oh,
so I had no idea. Like, so someone had obviously got a hold of my account and been using it while I wasn't using it for those 2 weeks. Never. What would I have from cheating?
Hello, this is Jordan's brother. I would like to apologise for getting him banned.
No, I would. I've never ever like cheated in like an online game. I don't find it enjoyable.
Yeah,
at all to like just do it. Like I had friends that had VAT bans on like Counter-Strike Source from back in the day.
Oh God!
And that where they'd basically downloaded hacks, like wall hacks and aiming hacks and stuff like that, just to try them out. And I'm sort of going, why are you even bothering just trying them out? I remember my original Steam account that I had, which literally only had Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike Source on it. That original account got banned on Counter-Strike, backbanned for life, because of a friend of mine installed hack using my account on his computer, because I left my account logged in on his computer. So I had to create a brand new account, which is now my current account. And luckily enough, I've not left it logged in on anyone's account. But,
this is Jordan's friend. I didn't mean to hack on his account. I thought I was on my account.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, Counter-Strike Source is one of those games as well that was a big part of my sort of childhood and my teens.
It's an iconic game.
Yeah,
it is.
I never got the hang of surfing. But I know surfing was a great big community. All my friends did it that I was in a clan with at the time. Shout out to the stone cold community that we had when we were 14 to 15. I've actually met some lifelong and good friends that I still keep in touch with now through that community. Even a young 14-year-old Jordan met up with playing online with an 8-year-old Estonian boy.
Yes.
2 years ago, I met in London for the very first time. He's now a full-grown man. And
he speaks very good English.
He speaks great English because of playing Counter-Strike with me and my friends.
He can swear like a champ.
Yes, exactly.
That's all you need in life.
But our community on Counter-Strike, we had a very weird relationship, shall we say, with the IT tech of our secondary school, because we were once caught playing Counter-Strike 1.6 on the school computers that we'd installed via a USB, and the guy was basically saying, "Oh, you guys realise you shouldn't be doing this, and we could get you put into isolation for doing this during your lessons." And we went, "Oh, we're really sorry, we won't do it again." Blah blah blah. And then we came in during our lunch break, and he said, "You guys want to play the games?" And I was like, "Yeah, please, yeah." So we set up the game during our lunch break. And the guy would host a server for us at lunchtime to play online with each other in the lunch hall. And then basically the guy was a great guy, and he looked like the guy who played Owl in Owl's Toy Barn from Toy Story. Such a lovely guy. And he ended up setting up public servers to use outside of school as well. Because he had servers galore at home. And then we were like, "Oh, do you mind if we brand this with our clan? We've got a group of gamers all from all around the world, all different countries, and there's about a big group of 50 of us on this forum." So we got the forum set up, and then we set up we had gun game servers, we had surf servers, and the really big one that actually got quite famous was our zombie escape servers, and we ended up beating some of the top Counter-Strike server hosting at these for the servers that we were hosting. And I believe there's a video on YouTube of our zombie escape server, 64 player server being fully populated, and someone made a tribute video to it with Map of the Problematic by Muse as the main music for it. And it's just, I think that video's got over 1 million views.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll try and find it to show you guys, but that was the pinnacle of our sort of gaming careers, as youngsters, that we set up these servers and had this massive thriving community. I really wish that we still would have kept pushing, because we could have if we had our own servers and charged people for them, we probably would have made some decent money. But we were doing this all free off the back of this guy who was just an IT tech at our school helping us out. And
it's called a public good, Jordan.
Yeah.
You just put some good vibes out into the world.
And it was great. And we made some good friends, had some good times on it. And yeah, shout out to the Stone Cold community, which is still going on Steam. There's still a few of us left, still hanging on. But yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if independently the rest of us three might have actually have gone onto one of your servers.
Almost inevitably.
Probably, yeah.
If you say you had a surf server, easily, I jumped onto quite a few surf servers. I couldn't surf, but all my friends were like, "Oh, let's do some surfing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm part of a group. Let's do surf."
That's exactly it.
Crunch.
I did Zombie Escape and Prison Escape as well.
Oh god, yeah.
Sunk so many hours into that game. I was also like, I was kind of part of a clan, but not really. So like, my brother is much better at video games than I am, and he was a fucking crack shot with an AWP and any gun, to be honest, on Counter-Strike, and he could 360 no scope someone easily without like fail. And
just to think about it, actually, talking about surf, a few of our community members made surf maps. Like, we would actually go into the bits and pieces and make surf maps. I think it was called Fruits and Colours, where each level was like based on a different fruit and a different colour. But yeah, that was another thing that was great.
Counter-Strike sauce, everyone.
Yeah. Moving on, has anyone else got any other games on the PC?
Oh, we already said about Command and Conquer. I can't think of anything. Well, like the big strategy games are always the big ones. Like we were talking about Theme Hospital, Theme Park, Command and Conquer series. Someone else here has... It's you, Jordan. You've put down Age of Empire.
Yes, Age of Empires 2.
And of course, Room Total War. Obviously. I don't need to talk about that.
Total shit.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
I'm making a reference to Rob.
There's a throwback
from
to the
a previous episode.
Which, as we all know, was me referencing my own ability at that game.
If you haven't heard the first episode where Rob completely destroys Rome Total War 2, then check it out.
If you haven't watched the first episode, what are you doing starting with episode 5?
I don't know, maybe they want to hear how much we'd improved.
It's fine. They're all about just listing video games.
Yeah.
And us just chatting absolute
And
bollocks.
dumb opinions.
Yeah, and having probably about 2/3 of it cut out because we ramble on for too long.
But moving this on from just the strategies on PC, obviously with Counter-Strike, as you were talking about, was a much beloved first-person shooter. And I feel like just looking at the PS2 list, there are a lot of first-person shooters on this.
Yes.
Indeed.
Before we move on to PS2, just a quick one. Have any of you ever played Chips Challenge?
Nope.
No. What is that?
So Chips Challenge was like... I can't remember if it was a free game or if it was just a game that we somehow managed to get. I really can't remember how we managed to get it. It might have been a demo disc.
I do know this.
You know it, yeah.
Yes.
How fun was it?
I got this on a disc of 100 Windows 95 games.
That's the one. Yes,
The very one. And it was Blob Factory was another one on it.
Yeah, and it was. I remember. I can see the disc. It was black and yellow with a white background. Oh my god! What an iconic disc. Oh, if anyone else who's listening has or had that disc when they were growing up, you know the excitement because 100 games.
Yeah.
4 discs, was it?
I think it was 4.
Yeah, because it was like a bumper CD jewel case, wasn't it?
That's it.
Oh my god.
And it was all just like every game was kind of simple, and it was all like there was a kind of bootleg feel to all of it.
Yeah. But Chips Challenge was like a really good puzzle platformer.
Yeah.
And it would probably still be very good to this day because like it's dated, but
You're in luck, Gary.
yeah. Why?
There's a bundle on Steam.
There's a what?
There's always a bundle on Steam.
How much?
Like $3.99 for Chips Challenge 1 and 2 and the Chips Challenge 2 edited DLC.
That's fair. I would say that's fair. Like that's a pretty simple old game, but for $3.99, I'll happily pay for the cost of them, saving me having to download it off a website.
Oh, God. Character
not that we condone.
They've updated the character.
Yeah, they've changed the character from a green top.
Yeah, he's gone from the little dude in like the blue top to a little
blue top
Becky guy.
Huh.
Interesting.
That game was originally meant to be for the Atari Lynx.
Good to know.
Yeah, that looks. Oh no! Look, Chips Challenge 2 version 2 themes and offline, so you can actually, by the looks of things, change how it looks.
Very cool. Right, so shall we move on to the PS2 games?
Yeah.
Sure.
Where do we even begin?
Well, a lot of you have put in Time Splitters.
Oh God, yes.
all the different
Such a good
characters, the
series.
level designing, the weapons, bricks,
The sense of
monkeys.
My favorite, like, I didn't know about Time Splitters. Oh no, did I? I can't remember. But I remember seeing Time Splitters 2 coming out, and they released a demo disc probably from like PlayStation 2 magazine. And I remember playing Siberia
Oh,
the
yes.
first time, and that fucking soundtrack hits me in the
Oh,
field.
God, yeah.
Of what? It's not even a good level, like in terms of like level design. It's not even that clever, but it's just so iconic.
It's Graham Norgate, isn't it? He's done quite a lot of
Yeah.
game music, and he did GoldenEye as well, I think.
Oh yeah, like the Siberia thing is where you really get an overlap with GoldenEye. You'll see a lot of, if you've played GoldenEye, then you play Time Splitters 2. There's a huge overlap, even in sound effects. There's assets that are reused in it.
I just forgot that, just remembered rather, that you couldn't even jump in Time Splitters.
Yeah.
So it was basically GoldenEye, but
Yep.
So going back to our previous episode where I mentioned about Time Splitters 2, add in a jump, please. Please and thank you.
But Time Splitters 2 and 3, I sunk huge amounts of time into. Again, offline split-screen multiplayer, it was magnificent. Building your own levels and all the rest of it, fighting bots, that was brilliant.
4-player split screen was just so nice. But then when you... that's the thing that you don't normally get nowadays, is like the split screen looking. How frustrating that was when you were like... You were trying to hide, and then your fucking like friend just looks over. And
you were looking. You were looking.
Have you seen those really elaborate like setups where people have put like cardboard and they're like sitting above and below?
One of them has to wear like a box on his head and stuff like that.
Talking about screen cheating, people looking at each other's screens in games. Have you guys seen that 4-player co-op game called Screen Cheat?
Oh, yes.
All your characters are invisible and you have to try and kill the other characters by looking at their screen.
Yeah.
That's such a brilliant concept.
It's superb. I feel like if you've grown up playing split screen multiplayer games, you're going to be a bit of a natural at that. Especially if it's maps which were in like Time Splitters or even Call of Duty 4.
I feel like some like the younger generation probably won't get the joke of screen cheat.
Yeah, it's if you just never had an offline multiplayer game, you're just gonna completely have missed out on this.
Yeah.
Oh God, Time Splitters. The other one, the other big co-op one that we've also put down multiple times was Conflict Desert Storm, which was actually. When I got a PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 2, I will stand over as the golden age of video games for me, because I am finally at that age where I can act like a decrepit gammon. But I got a PlayStation 2 as sort of a reward for doing the 11 plus, the old transfer test to decide which school you can get into in Northern Ireland. And it was a complete surprise. Did not expect to get it. And it came with, I think it was 5 games. Airblade, which was a hoverboarding skateboard game. Scooby-Doo, Night of 100 Frights, surprisingly decent platforming game. Turok Evolution, incredible first-person shooter, which had like really advanced mechanics in it for the time. You could like shoot people with poison arrows and they would throw up. You could blow their legs off and they would scream and clutch the wound and stuff. What was the other ones? There was a racing game, if I remember correctly. Oh no, sorry. It was Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. And then finally, Conflict Desert Storm. And Conflict Desert Storm was the one that I didn't originally pick up at first. It didn't take my attention. But then my older brother and I sank God knows how many hours into playing that offline split-screen co-op mode. You each get 2 characters. As we were discussing this earlier, to remind ourselves of it, you played as either Bradley and Connors, which was the squad leader and the machine gunner, or Paul Foley and Jones, which was the sniper and the explosive / medic character.
I was so fond of Foley. I was so pissed off when Conflict Global Storm started.
Oh yeah, I didn't pick that one up. Like I literally read about what had happened.
It was a very bad game, and they just offed him in like the first chapter, and I was like, No.
I just loved it was this culmination of things because the way it started in the co-op is what hooked my attention at first. My older brother played as Bradley and Connors, and you'd start off with him as Bradley with his machine gun out in the desert because it's set in like Iraq, and I was Foley and I was in a prison cell and some wee dude was just singing to himself outside guarding me, and I just had to sit there while my brother made his way over to free me from the prison cell. And from that point on, it was just like, oh, this is going to be good.
I've never heard of that game before in my life.
What?
Conflict Desert Storm. Never heard of it.
Gotta be on Steam as well. If it's on Steam and it's got online co-op, we should smash that.
Oh, to be honest, though, I think there's better games that we could play co-op because it's dated quite badly.
True.
Like, I remember playing it and it was janky then.
Yeah.
Like, it's 70p.
70p.
I mean, for 70p we can do it.
Yeah, we can definitely give that a go.
Oh my god, that would actually be quite fun to stream because the jankiness would probably be quite fun. But like, if it was,
I just want to know whether
Desert Storm 1 is only single player on Steam. Is Desert Storm 2 on? Come on, please.
I just want to know whether you can still block the tank cannon by just walking against it.
Desert Storm 2 is not on Steam. That is very disappointing to me.
Maybe it's on Epic.
It'll probably be free next week.
It might just be it might just be one of those things, but I didn't have many like shooter games on the PS2. I think it might have been like, I don't know, maybe I wasn't into it at the time. But like, I think the only shooting games I used to play were on the PS1, which was the actual Time Crisis and Point Blank. But I never ever got into shooter games up until sort of my late teens when Call of Duty and sort of stuff started being more of a presence.
Yeah,
but the stuff like Medal of Honor, I never played. I never played Medal of Honor. I never played Time Splitters. Didn't play Conflict.
That's fascinating.
You're a good boy because you didn't actually play games that were above your
age rating.
Yes, my parents were very strict on the age ratings.
I feel like
were they actually?
Yeah.
That might be why then.
I think it wasn't until I got to like, I think, is it 15s or 16s? I think that might have been when I got to about 14, that's when they were sort of going, okay, like you're old enough now maybe to get like this sort of game, which is a little bit more adult sort of thing. That's why most of my sort of PS2 games are quite cartoony or like party games sort of thing. So like a game that I very fondly remember playing on PS2 was Sly Cooper.
Oh yes,
Raccoonus, which was just like basically like a sort of 3D platform game where you play as a raccoon who's a thief, and it's very sort of Spyro-esque sort of.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. It was like an adventure platformer, and it was really good. It was fantastic really game.
Yeah. And I remember playing that all the way through, and Simpsons Hit and Run as well. That was like, I think I played Simpsons Hit and Run before GTA, which was like a reverse thing to do because it was sort of Simpsons Hit and Run was like a parody on GTA.
Yeah.
But the best thing about Simpsons Hit and Run was going to the mansion and finding the jet car.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. I'd love to like go back in time and see your reaction to the very first time you accidentally ran over someone on GTA, thinking that they were just going to sort of belly flop on the floor and like swim,
roll around.
And then you're there just like, oh god, I killed someone! Oh god!
Oh god,
I would love to see that.
I feel like the PlayStation 2, you were talking about like how you didn't play that many shooters, and it's a weird one for me because I feel like the PlayStation 2 is like everything we know about shooters definitely sort of came up and evolved through PlayStation 2 games. Like I was saying about Turok earlier, it was a bizarrely fantastic game with huge variety of weapons and all the rest of that, as I described. You had Medal of Honor Frontline and Rising Sun.
Oh god,
Frontline did the whole cinematic thing. Rising Sun had its own offline multiplayer split screen with bots. Again, fantastic, like time splitters. Then there was Killzone, which was just blood. Like, it was a whole different thing. It was just this weird, gritty space Nazis game, which was just incredibly fantastic to play. Really good gunplay to it, which is obviously now improved even further of newer generations. And then the other big one I was flagging up was Black, which I don't think many people have played, which was like, it was a glorified tech demo for destructive environments. The entire thing was about the fact that your gun was very detailed. You could see shell casings coming out of it, and pretty much everything could be broken. If you fired at pillars, big chunks of concrete came out of them. You could blow up the front of buildings and all this sort of stuff. And like, all of that was these little bits and pieces in each of these games sort of coming together to what we know now as, like, pretty much every first-person shooter has all of those little elements put into it. So it's interesting that you've sort of jumped over that and gone straight into the next gen, effectively. Although you have played Counter-Strike Source.
Yeah, most of my time was played on Counter-Strike, so probably it from that sort of young age.
Yeah.
You just reminded me with Killzone, which I absolutely love that game as well. But did any of you ever play Red Faction?
Oh, yes! The destructible environments where you could, like, tunnel through the walls.
I think anyone who's ever played the first game, or was it the first or the second? I can't remember, but one of them where there was, like, it was a red kind of rocky kind of tunnel-like area, and you could just dig another tunnel inside there and hide.
Yeah, 100%.
And just hide for the entire map.
There was the lobby map where you could tunnel through the wall of the map and up. And like, you could just expertly use rockets and so on to tunnel bit by bit, breaking down voxels effectively until you got above the skylight and you could find a sniper rifle in there.
Yeah. That game just, I'd never seen anything quite like it, because the destructible landscape, even though it was like quite big chunks of landscape that you were breaking, it still felt like quite a new piece of tech.
I couldn't think of anything else at the time that did that.
No, and I think that was like, we played that for hours, just literally me versus my brother, just making holes in the environment. It was so much fun, like Minecraft, but 10 years before.
Yeah, it's another one of those ones where a lot of the nostalgia around it is multiplayer based. Like, it's that offline split screen, you're sharing that experience with someone.
Yeah, definitely. I do find that.
Go on, I'll change the subject.
Multiplayer games in general have more nostalgia than non-multiplayer games, I'd say, because you're sharing that experience with someone else.
Fair.
Even if you're playing a single-player game with your friend or your family, I still kind of see that as like a multiplayer game in some ways.
The one other big one for, it's not so much multiplayer, but the idea of sharing it with your family. You're saying earlier about, like, when we were talking about like dads and their attitudes towards video games, my dad doesn't get them. He doesn't play them at all, with the exception of one game, which I had put onto this list, which I don't have that strong of a feeling about. Like, it was a really fun multiplayer skate or snowboarding game called SSX.
Yes, SSX.
And there was SSX Tricky, which was the big popular one. Like, it had all those hidden routes. The soundtrack was incredible. But SSX 3, where you could start at the top of the mountain and snowboard pretty much the whole way down it. My dad became obsessed with it. And I have images in my head of him sitting, because we have this like cottage up in Donegal, which has no like internet connection or anything. It's in the middle of like a signal black site. So you're just like in the woods and there's nothing to do. And we'd hook up the PlayStation 2 and he'd be sitting on the floor snowboarding down a mountain with a wee smile on his face. Only game to get his attention was a snowboarding game.
Brilliant. And that is a class game. It's definitely one that I remember from my childhood, like playing split screen with my brother. Just racing. I
can't associate the Caesars Jerk It Out with anything except SSX.
Oh, Caesars Jerk It Out is definitely an old original FIFA one as well. That's definitely one of those. But that's sort of just all sort of EA sports games.
Yeah, EA Radio.
Definitely.
we have the rights to this song, so we'll buy the rights again.
But yeah, one multiplayer game. I didn't really play much split screen, other than like the odd racing game and stuff like that. But the only like sort of shooters that I did play was the Star Wars Battlefront 2 game.
Oh God, of course.
And
What?
oh God, like after playing the newer version of Star Wars Battlefront on Origin, I went back and played the original Battlefront 2 on Steam because it's still available. God, that game was so like in your head, you remember these games when you were a child and you think, oh, that was such a good game. Like the graphics were so good for its time. But then you go back and you go, oh my God, this game looks awful. Like, how does that even look like a Droideka? That is like not. But I'm so glad that EA sorted out the newer version on Origin because it's all what I sort of remember this, like the old one being like when I was a child. But like, it's like the game has sort of grown up and aged with me and is now like how I remember it. But I used to play that all the time with my mate Joe. And Joe's a listener to the podcast. Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe.
Good old friend of mine from school. But yeah, Battlefront 2 has got a place in my childhood. Definitely.
It's definitely one of those, like, when you talk about the headline games of PlayStation 2, Battlefront 2 is definitely up there. Along with, of course, my much beloved San Andreas, which I feel like talking about the entire era that the PS2 embodied, and like it kept going for so long and defeated so many other consoles. I feel like San Andreas was the very peak. That was the bit where it was just like, this is what this console can do. And it unlocked such a nice little step towards what the next generation was going to be.
My initial thoughts on seeing San Andreas, I wasn't overly that impressed because I'd played Vice City and GTA 3 so much. And then I saw the UI of San Andreas and I was like, I don't really like this. Like it's very different styling. But then once I got over that and played through the story, played through like just the world is just fantastic.
Yeah.
And that Easter egg, I don't know if it's necessarily an Easter egg, but that you could play split screen.
Oh yeah. Or no, it was joint screen.
Joint screen, sorry, yeah. Joint screen in one town. It was a very small town. But that was a lot of fun. Going back to like, split screen and joint screen.
Yeah.
Sharing a game with your friends or family. That had a lot of fun because you just spawn in like cheat codes, bring in a tank, blow everything up as two people. Like, oh my God, it was so fun.
I remember like the big memory I have of it was actually in single player, and I think I've shared this with you guys before. Like my whole perspective about just how big this game was and how big things were going to get was when I had been early into the game and I hadn't completed much of the missions or anything, but I stole a van and drove it up beside Los Santos Airport, and I hopped over the wall and thought, idiotic developers, I've outsmarted them. And I ran in and found a Dodo, the simple Cessna-style light plane parked up by the runway, hopped into it and took off. And I immediately got a wanted level, and then that then ramped up as soon as I started flying towards Mount Chiliad, which I was already losing my mind about. This whole idea of there's these huge other areas and there's an entire mountain right there. And as I'm flying towards it thinking, I'm in a plane, so the police helicopters can't even get me, a jet flew past the front of me. And it was just like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's how this works now.
Do they have like the army come in the new GTA? Because I never remember seeing.
No, it's just police.
Just it ramps up to the FIB.
Why did they do that?
I'm not sure actually. An interesting point, because I think San Andreas was indeed the last time they did that, because normally it just works on a system now where it goes to the Noose/SWAT team and then FIB.
I think
and FIB come in the Rangers.
I think it might just be an American thing that they didn't want people just shooting and killing army soldiers. Like maybe that was a sort of a unpatriotic thing to do, being Americans.
I genuinely would not be surprised if that was the reason. Although, important to remember, and a very understated fact, Grand Theft Auto was done by the guys at Rockstar, which were a British game development company. So this very US-centric, sorry, even more specific, Scottish. So a very US-centric game, with the exception of the London expansion, which is like beloved over the world, came from a very small team in Scotland.
Yeah, I'm not small anymore.
Yeah, obviously now it's an empire, and if you don't stop this fucking microtransaction stuff, I will come for you.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip.
I hate the way that San Andreas is prioritized for the quotes. I understand why, obviously, but I think that Ken Rosenberg is horrendously underrepresented, with opening Vice City with him just going, I stick my head out of the gutter for 1 second and fate shovels shit in my face.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, San Andreas is, it's up there. It's definitely, probably not even nostalgic. It's just a classic.
You can, I was playing it in uni using the Multi-Theft Auto mod, which was an online multiplayer system. Actually, GTA Online. Literally, Multi-Theft Auto was GTA Online.
Yeah.
You could go in, pick up like what do you call that? The Rustler plane, where you could go along in that sort of fake Hurricane fighter plane and spray other players as they're trying to drive around.
I used to play the multiplayer mod on San Andreas, and just be a taxi driver. Used to love going around and playing like pretty much Crazy Taxi, but within GTA. Right.
Do you know what? That's one thing that I miss so much from GTA 4.
Yes.
It's all the really small, like, actual day-to-day jobs, like being a policeman, being a firefighter, being ambulance, being taxi, being whatever. Like
the most important one. No, you got into, the fake Apache, the Hunter helicopter, and you clicked L3 and the words Brown Thunder came up on your screen.
I miss all of those little like details, because it was really fun just to, if you're just not really that fussed about like shooting everyone up for a few minutes, you can jump in a taxi and just do something chill.
And it did pay off. Like for Vice City and all, you could unlock businesses by doing those missions to a certain level.
Yeah. So, being an avid user of weird controllers on the PlayStations.
Oh God.
Where's this going? Leisure Suit Larry, Dildo Edition.
No, Gary, the iToy. iToy Play. I remember that being very fun, sort of party game. Getting it for my either a birthday or a Christmas, and just me and my little brother standing in front of this the CRT TV with the little webcam on top of it, and then just literally wildly flaying our arms to try and kill like ninjas and stuff like that. That were just jumping out of the screen.
I guess those of you who had the iToy Play remember When I'm Cleaning Windows.
Yes.
What a good, like, it was not even a good game, but it was just so, it was so creative in such a weird way, because you'd never seen anything quite like it. And there were just so many different effects that are now like commonplace on webcams and stuff like that. But just having like moving your arm and then having a little rainbow trail come off it was so fun. As a kid, it was just like, holy shit, my imagination is going wild.
That's actually, because the iToy spawned that sort of, it was part of that branch that turned into things like the PSI, PS Move, the Kinect, the Xbox.
Gotcha.
And there was another thing that sort of, it flared up with that generation, then died very quickly, which was the SOCOM US Navy SEALs game, which came with a headset, and you could give voice commands to your fellow soldiers, which was, I got, there was a whole thing where I wanted SOCOM 1, and I kept pushing my mum to say, like for my birthday, could you pick up a copy of SOCOM 1 for me? She went in the game, and I wasn't there for any of this, and she kept saying it's delayed. They say it won't be in for 2 months or something like that, and I had no idea why there was such a delay on this already released game. And she finally came home one day with a copy of SOCOM 2 US Navy SEALs before it was released, because she had been pestering games so much on my behalf, thinking that I wanted the sequel and not the first one. I had no idea there was a sequel coming, and she managed to get an early copy of it for me. And then, much to my distaste, I find out that a nice North Belfast accent doesn't actually work well with voice commands coded by some American development team. Jester, no. Flash and clear.
Jester.
What did that guy just say? You have to speak more slowly. God.
Brilliant.
So that's so disappointing that you waited for months and it didn't work.
You know what? I was happy enough of it. I didn't use the voice commands in the end, and it was still a very solid game.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to code it without the voice commands, just in case. Otherwise, you got a broken game.
But the voice commands thing just kind of disappeared. I can't think of any other games that did that.
Well, it's probably because we use voice commands on a day-to-day basis with our phones now.
Yeah.
It's also very difficult to code in something like that into a game.
Oh, definitely.
When budgets are already stretched and it's more of a gimmick than anything else. Plus, most people won't want to sit down and play a single-player game, talk to themselves over just playing a multiplayer game like Call of Duty.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. I will accept all of those, and I just really wanted a way out to not feel like a dick for sitting there with a headset on for a while.
Well, if it's any consolation, Rob and I, when we record our YouTube stuff, we are literally talking to a screen.
Yeah, so, true.
But for an intended purpose, but we are just sat there like, well, if anyone walked into this and just realized that we were talking to ourselves, they'd be a bit weirded out.
Yeah, like when I moved back home for a bit between jobs before, well, it was just after jobs and things, and like I had that brief window of I'd moved out of my shitty old flat, Gary, and was going to move in with you. Good God. Yeah, I was recording some stuff then, and like, my mum was just standing behind me for 10 minutes. I had my headphones on recording some shit, and she just goes, "So do you do this often?" I was like,
Are we
yes.
talking about like Let's Plays and stuff?
Yeah.
All right, okay, because I was about to say, because we're all just talking to screens right now.
No, but we're talking to each other. There's a difference.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, there's a difference between talking to a screen while there's somebody talking back at you and you talking to an imaginary
still, on
audience.
The outside looking in, if your mum was still behind you at this point, you're still just talking to a screen.
You guys are real, right?
Clearly having part of the conversation.
You can hear, like, it's like someone talking on the phone. When you're talking, you respond differently to each other, and you have pauses in the conversation, so it sounds like a conversation. Whereas when you're recording, it's non-stop fucking verbal diarrhea coming out, and you're just going.
It's like your own internal monologue as opposed to a conversation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand.
So anyone listening to it is going to be like, why the fuck are they talking through why they're playing the game?
It's like what I do when I stream, and like if I was...
and I have also found that doing that did make me start talking to myself more when I'm out and about doing regular everyday bullshit and looking even more insane.
I tend to do it as well, just out of like talking to myself. I talk to myself.
I constantly do that.
And like Brendan points it out to me, like when I'm playing, well, when we were playing Battle Royale games, like when they first started coming out, and I was like squadding up with Brendan and doing duos and stuff, I'd be going around and going, "Oh look, I just picked up an AWP or whatever gun it was I was picking up at the time," and Brendan would just go to me, "Jordan, I don't care unless there's one for me."
Yeah, I think the problem there is like you may speak out loud to yourself, and whereas I have like a constant narrative in my head rather than out loud.
Yeah, because you haven't got the outlet for like YouTube or Twitch, or you choose not to, rather. But whereas like Rob, Jordy, and I have all done YouTubing and Twitch, not to like a crazy degree where it's doing it every day and it is our life, but it does seep into your life to a point. Like Rob says, there are times where you're just like on your own and you just go, do something, and then you look at yourself and you're like, am I going mad?
I'm gonna whack this in the dishwasher now.
What do you think to that, chat? Can I get some
what up,
bits up
fellow bus travelers? It's your boy.
Rob Coxey,
oh shit! I have no money in my bank account.
Smash that like button.
Well, I suppose there we go. Okay, so we've transferred from the situation of, young Brendan shouting orders at Jester and whatever the other guys are called in that squad to just sort of rambling into a headset just to sort of provide a bit of background noise for your many viewers.
Yes. And by many, you mean like 2, which one of them is me.
And that's 2 shared amongst all 3 of us.
Yes. Oh god.
But no, just 2 more games just like as well that are weird controllers. Guitar Hero.
Oh yes. Rock Band was better.
How dare you?
I've got a balance on this. This is straying too far into the next generation, I should stress, but still.
Yeah.
Guitar Hero had better peripherals and Rock Band had better licensing.
Rock Band came out many, many years later after Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero came out in like 2005. Rock Band was like a 2010 thing. Guitar Hero had made like 4 games before Rock Band came out. And just the really tiny guitar that you got with the very first Guitar Hero.
The drums.
And learning how to... Not even the drums, just the guitar like version 1 before they did the whole band set sort of thing.
It was just the Guitar
Hero where you could play in fucking the Top Gear
through the fire and the flames.
Through the fire and the flames, yes. Like this was during a time in my life where I got really into like rock music and like all the songs that were being played were like absolute bangers. Like, I don't think there was one song on Guitar Hero 1 that I didn't like. And then they brought out like the Monsters of Rock Guitar Hero 3, which was a bit more later, but bangers after bangers and just pressing buttons and strumming away on the controller. Brilliant.
That's like going on like peripherals and controllers again. We haven't mentioned SingStar.
Yeah,
but there were some great songs on that.
It was hugely popular as well, but it's also like it's a karaoke machine. We got those. Who's our thing?
I had a dance map for the PlayStation.
Oh yeah, Dance Revolution.
Yeah, Dance Revolution. What?
Dance Resolution. Oh my god, that just sounds like every fucking corporate game ever.
Either the 4K remaster or like a New Year's thing.
No, it's alternative dispute resolution.
It had all that like Euro pop dance beats and stuff like that. Like it was
when the rhythm starts to play.
Yeah, and like Mambo No. 5 and like Ricky Martin, all different sort of styles of dance music. Yeah, but they were really like cheap, shit-made plastic sheets, like a twister board, like awful. And like, but they had like the sensors in that you could just touch, and it would. I was really not a fan. If you wore socks while using it, you just slid all over the place. They weren't greatly made, but I guess just like it wasn't like they were ridiculously expensive or like anything like that. The arcade style game machines you get.
For SingStar, the one standout thing that I do recall from it was naturally it was my older sister that introduced SingStar to our family of 3 brothers and 1 sister. But she got particularly annoyed with me one day when she discovered that I had completely trounced her at my rendition of the Pussycat Dolls' Don't You?
Oh.
I was the best singer in the family at doing Don't You?
You do realise those games as well, like they don't make you sure that like if you're a good singer or not. It's all based on
Shut up.
It's all based on as long as your vocal cords, like the pitch of your voice goes up a certain amount to reach that next line where the line goes up and down.
I can dream, Jordan.
As long as you change the pitch enough, you could be singing in like 2 keys lower and out, and
Next, you'll be telling me that being good at drums on Guitar Hero doesn't make me a good drummer.
Well, Brenton, we're sorry to say this, but
no.
Right.
But yeah.
I think the only thing left there is Tony Hawk's Underground 2.
Well, there's one other as well.
Oh, I've also thought of one other as well.
So we got a couple more.
There's like it was inevitable. The PS2 has such a large library of fucking fantastic games.
Need for Speed Underground 2.
God, yes.
Oh, God, yeah. Underground and Underground 2 were amazing.
Underground 2.
Just the soundtracks and everything.
Exactly. Riders on the Storm.
The soundtracks is such a key thing as well.
Well, this is what we've covered quite a few times. Like, for me personally, a soundtrack is pretty much one of the most essential parts of a game. For me to choose whether or not I want to buy it or keep returning to the game, soundtrack is essential. Sound design is grossly underestimated in how powerful it is to capture your emotions.
Yeah.
If you have shit audio, you can really, really tell. And there are only a handful of games where like the sound design is like perfected.
But yeah, just going off like gaming soundtracks, licensed soundtracks, like the Need for Speed games and Tony Hawk,
top tier.
They tended to have such fantastic sets of music, like a variety of little different genres, but all blending together into just this really nice thematic playlist.
Yeah. Same with actually, sort of on the topic of Need for Speed, I remember the Burnout series sort of leaned into that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Rather bizarrely, was it Domination on PS2 was the one where you had Avril Lavigne's girlfriend in English, but also in Spanish.
No.
Which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently was, and was decided by the developers to be included in this game.
Maybe they just really liked Avril Lavigne.
Hey,
God.
you.
That was one now.
Which would probably translate to hey, you, right?
Close enough. The peril with I find like Need for Speed Underground was like a good righteous like street racing game, but like Burnout was one of those ones that was designed just to, if you were doing multiplayer, it was designed to make the other person hate you, because it took that simple mechanic of nudging the other person out of the way and made it a core game mechanic.
Was Burnout the one where you had that you got like knocked out and smashed into something? It'd do like a slow motion, like oh yeah, that I remember that game.
You could cause you could push people into oncoming traffic and stuff like that, and it'd cause a proper like explosion.
I remember it was in Burnout Paradise, but in the previous titles was the option to do like the most damage in the with just one car.
Yeah, there was stuff where you could be launched into like a massive crossroad junction, and the idea was to cause as much damage as possible in one jump.
Yeah, and you just sort of like detonate your car multiple times and jump up over everything. That was fun.
It's a very specific niche within the racing genre, but it was a really good one, and again, the soundtrack was essential.
Yeah.
That was one, it was the one with my younger brother who I probably played the most amount of PlayStation 2 split screen games with. The only other one that we had played a huge amount of time on, which I feel is also criminally underrated, is War of the Monsters, which was like, I don't know how to describe this, a wrestling game involving like sci-fi B-movie monsters. My go-to guy was basically a floating eyeball with a body made out of electricity, and you could basically spawn in these sort of environments that are like cities and throw the other character, like he would be King Kong or whatever, and you could throw him into buildings and cause the buildings to collapse on him. You could throw oil tankers at him. You could tear the radio masts off of skyscrapers and stab the other player with them. It was incredible. And there was the reason we got it was because there was a demo disc that came with the PlayStation magazine which had one fight where you could choose like 3 monsters or something like that, and we must have played that to death before we finally decided we'd get the game.
Oh, was that?
It looks.
I think that's what all we got for today, isn't it?
Well, there is also Half-Life, which we have mentioned before. But,
Yeah.
you know, like, we don't have to go too far into Half-Life, because I'm sure over the countless episodes that we've already done and will continue doing, Half-Life will keep coming back.
Yeah, we could probably do a Half-Life episode at some point. We'll call it episode 3.
Yeah. What I would like to say, though, just in terms of nostalgia, moving aside from like the general Half-Life 1 game, the expansion packs I thought were phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the one for the PS2, Half-Life released on PS2, had a 2-player co-op mode called Decay. Have any of you 3 played it?
No, not at all.
Because that was awesome. Did you play Opposing Force, Blue Shift?
Oh, of course.
And what was the other one? Was it just Opposing Force and Blue Shift?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was Opposing Force and Blue Shift. Obviously, if you played it, you know what it is. Otherwise, it's a take from a different angle. So, like in Half-Life, you play as Gordon Freeman. In Opposing Force, in Blue Shift, you play as Barney.
Oh,
what was
Barney.
his last name? Rumble.
About that beer I owed you.
And then in the third one, you play as some sort of soldier, which nondescript soldier. But you play it from the same time, happening at exactly the same time, but from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So I played those religiously. I loved all of that. Like even though Opposing Force wasn't as good, it was still a very good expansion to the game.
Yeah.
So when Decay came out, the only reason I bought Half-Life on the PS2 was because I'd already played it to death, but was because Decay was on it. It was a 2-player co-op, again, set in the same time, same period, and you follow the steps of Gordon Freeman. And it was a great little co-op game. We managed to break it so many times. The option to kill... who's the old guy? You got a crowbar at the very beginning of the game, and you could just walk up to one of the 2 main characters. I think one of them was an old guy and one of them was in a wheelchair. And you could just like perpetually just auto fucking smack. Like it just like constantly go until it like just and it was like you've killed like whoever it was, you failed the mission.
Is the old guy you're thinking about the one with the glasses? Because I think he's nameless in Half-Life 1, but in 2 it's Dr. Kleiner.
Oh,
Isaac Kleiner.
Yeah, because he's like a generic scientist skin in Half-Life 1, and then in Half-Life 2 he comes back as
one of like 3 generic scientists, and 2 of them became characters.
Yeah, so if, I'll just send you this screenshot, but basically there was a somewhat looking like Gordon's dad kind of look, and then someone in a wheelchair, and then I think there was Kleiner there as well, potentially. But you played as 2 women that I can't remember their names. But they were also scientists in Black Mesa.
Yeah.
And it was just fun. It was like a nice little adaptation to it. So
may have to check that out if that's on Steam.
I don't think it ever was on Steam, you know?
Yeah, because I picked
now.
up the full pack whenever I got Steam the first time round, because Half-Life is incredible.
It might be a mod, but I don't think they ever released it on Steam. I don't think it got amazing reviews generally, but I personally, from a nostalgia point of view, I thought it was quite nice. So.
Well, I hope our audience have enjoyed our little trip down Nostalgia Avenue.
Memory Lane.
No, Nostalgia Avenue, not Memory Lane.
Oh, right, okay. Is that adjacent, or is it being updated? And
It's
zoning
copyrighted, Rob.
It's the leafy suburb.
Exactly. Nostalgia Avenue.
Rose-tinted.
Like Conversation Street, but Nostalgia Avenue.
And like Conversation Street, this one has come to an end.
Exactly. And
quite quickly.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed our little escapade. And please remember to follow us on Twitter at VGC_podcast to keep up to date with all of our podcast updates and bits and pieces. Quick shout out to a few people who spoke to us and sent in their nostalgic games. Quickly, we've got Dan. Thanks, Dan. We've got Jamie. We've got Rich. We've also got Melissa and Aidan. Thank you, guys. And Cara, thank you for sending in your nostalgic games for us to read about on Twitter. That was a fantastic bit of community gathering information there.
Also another shout out to Siri as well, who was quite engaged with the first few episodes as well. You know, posting her like top fives and things, and being quite disappointed in us for not mentioning certain games like Stellaris as often as we should have done.
Oh yes.
So yeah, here's to you. We'll try and impress you further.
I think we managed to talk about
at least not disappoint you.
We managed to talk about quite a few of the nostalgic games that Siri had put into it this time. So we've GoldenEye, Super Mario 64. Age of Empires 2 and Pokemon. Yeah, we covered quite a few of those. Yeah. But thank you guys again for listening. Boys, where can we find you if we want to hear more content or see more content for you guys?
I can be found on YouTube at Rob Coxey.
I can also be found at YouTube at Endash, ENDASH. I'm not the SpongeBob. I've got a big red N for my avatar. Also, if just before we move on, if anyone listening has any other nostalgic games that we didn't mention, please drop us a message. It would be nice to see what you think of our list as well.
Yeah, and you can find me streaming every so often on twitch.tv/Jordy Weirds. And Brendan,
you can find me beyond the veil of death.
Ooh, you have now passed away and you are beyond it now.
Right, guys. Thank you very much. We have been the Video Game Chat podcast, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Oh, God.
Goodbye, everyone.
Christ.